Good evening everyone. Tonight I want to bring you a video talking about how to play the new character Leroy Smith. Now I want to apologize first of all for the bad audio quality in this video. For some reason my good microphone doesn't want to work with my PlayStation today, and I'm really sorry about that, but hopefully the content makes up for it. Now I didn't make an initial reaction video to this character's move list or anything like that because I wanted to wait a bit longer, play a bit more, and bring you guys something with a bit more girth. If you're new around here, I'm known for my girth. And so this is basically going to be like a stripped down, simplified version of the really long tutorials I make for the characters that I play a lot. Now, big disclaimer, it's day one of this character, so everything we know now is going to be understood better in the future and optimized and so on. But I honestly think I've learned enough today that I can bring you a powerful package that you can bring into real matches and do really well with the character. So if we start with the character introduction, I think Leroy has good movement. He's very quick on his feet. He does very high damage. I would say he has some of the highest damage in the game. He has powerful, fast counter hit moves. He has some really powerful gap closers that can even give him advantage. He's got good homing moves. He's got far above average damage combos. Even in Season 3 with all the damage power creep, he does even more damage than most characters. He's got good standard mid pokes, powerful mix-ups with safe knockdown mids and giant knockdown lows. And so basically this character is extremely well-rounded, fast and powerful, and is going to be at the very least mid-tier, but could be much higher than that. It remains to be seen, where he ends up in the meta, but I can't envision this character being anything weaker than mid-tier, but he might be a lot higher than that. So we talked about his great damage. Some of that comes in the shape of his very good block punishment, so maybe we should start there. So for standing 10 frames, you have 1, 2 for a little jab string. Might not look super powerful, but you have the option of tacking on the 4 here for 27 damage, and that is going to transition into your mix-up stance, which looks like this. This stance is called Hermit, or it's what I'm referring to it as anyway. And you can tell here in the options that Jin is set to second option all guard, meaning that any string that doesn't get blocked somewhere along the way, kind of like that, is a natural string. So this is a real punisher. So you're going to transition into Hermit with +3. +3 is good for Hermit. It's not amazing. It's not as much as you would like to really start partying with Hermit mix-ups, but it's respectable enough. And so it's an above average, really quite powerful 10 frame for 27 damage. If you want to get out of the stance, you have the option of cancelling it manually with 3+4, or you can step to either side out of the stance for a very evasive sidestep actually, so I think that's pretty cool. But that's 10 frames. For 12 you have the standard a classic notation for the 12 frame, and that's the 2-2. This is going to give you 30 damage and +7, and the +7 is really quite respectable here, and I like that. And you're close to them, so you can really do stuff off of that +7. Now, if you really like Hermit stance, you only sacrifice 3 damage for going for this instead, so that's definitely an option. But I think the fact that you get the 3 damage and 4 more frames of advantage here is a big enough draw that you're going to want to go for the 2-2 when you're punishing stuff like hop kicks most of the time. So really quite cool. Moving up to 13, you have a down forward one. We're going to talk more about that later. It's 13 frames and mid, and you have 2 extensions. The down forward 1-1 for +5 and 23 damage, and down forward 1-4 for 30 damage, so quite a bit higher. +6 and again Hermit stance, and +6 and Hermit stance is really quite good, and you can do some uninterruptible stuff that is very powerful when you have +6. So the down forward 1-4 is honestly an option to keep in mind for punishment. It's only -6 on block, so this is probably one of your better ways of accessing the string, and just a very solid little poke string overall. The fact that it's mid too just means that this string is just great. I think it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, down forward 1-4 is really good. Now, moving up to 14 frames, we need to talk about what is possibly the most powerful 14 frame move in Tekken, more or less. And that might be an overstatement, and you might contest that, but it's there's no doubt that this is extremely powerful, and probably Leroy's signature move, more or less. And it's 1+2, 1+2, 1. Looks like that. 14 frames to impact, as you can see. Again, amazing to have the frame data on screen. and then you press 1+2 twice for this two-parter here, and then you pull the trigger with the 1 for the massive knockdown move for 32 damage, and a total of 56. So I think this would have been good, I mean like seriously useful, if it did like 40 to 45. The fact that it does 56 is kind of mind-blowing because it's full combo damage, and you should basically consider this move a launcher in my opinion. Usually when you get a 14 frame launcher, that's so fast that the move is very shitty in some way, difficult to do, or has no range. This has decent range. He just takes a step in and starts annihilating the opponent. So this is standout powerful stuff. And there's another reason I think this is not only going to be amazingly good for block punishment, but one of the go-to most powerful moves that define this character. I'm going to explain why now. It doesn't really go in the punishment section, but I'm kind of playing it fast and loose here, as you can tell. So the fact that Jin is set to second option all guard means that I can jab him and then do a move, and he's going to block that, and that allows us to have a look at the minus frames on block. So if I do that here, you can tell that the 1+2 is -6, and if I do the second hit, that's -9. So both of these options are completely safe on block, and they take a really long time to animate, meaning that they are extremely easy to hit confirm. So basically I can walk up on Jin, press 1+2 and just start pummeling here, and if I see the hit and I know that it's going to connect, I can just pull the trigger with 1 and I get this massive knockdown move. But if he blocks it like this, I can just stop and I'm in no danger whatsoever. I think safety is like one of the most powerful aspects of any really good like high tier character in this game, and this is like insane levels of safety. The fact that you can get 56 damage when you hit, but you can actually mitigate the risks by hit confirming in this way, means that this move is just standout powerful. It's extremely good. And so even after a little sidestep when you need a quick whiff punish, just throw this out and then hit the brakes if you need to, pull the trigger if you want to, and it's just extremely flexible. I think you're going to use it at the wall. I think you're going to use it for short range whiff punishment, especially after a step, and I think you're going to use it for block punishment. What an amazing move. Such insane power. Really great. Moving up to 15, you have a sort of standard kind of launcher. It's the down for 2 1+2. It's similar to what you would see on a character like Miguel or Kuma, you know, the down for 2-1. And so it's going to be launch punishable, but have good range and decent damage. So the fact that this is launch punishable means that you really need to use this only when you know it's going to hit. Now the range is good but not massive, so you have to be careful. And if you want to block punish something and you feel nervous about whether or not this is actually going to hit in time, I mean, just press 1+2, honestly, and get the 56, which is great, and don't worry about the fact that you might get launch punished here. But it is the most sort of standard launcher that you have. And by the way, if you want to go for a mid launcher and you don't want to do something quite this risky, and for some reason you don't want to do 1+2, maybe you want to do, you know, a real combo with spin and wall carry, you actually do have an orbital, and I just decided to talk about that here as well. But you do have a very good orbital. This is like an above average orbital. 21 frames to impact, only -3 on block, amazing. You have an advancing version that launches, neutral version that launches, and a retreating version that doesn't launch. So amazing stuff again. And if you just want to do a mid launcher and you don't want to like do something party hard like this and maybe get launch punished, press 1+2 or do orbitals. Both are amazingly great. So okay, that's it for standing block punishment. Let's give you some stuff for pushback moves. I think the go-to option here is the forward 4-4. This is really long range. The initial hit is 16 frames to impact, which is very fast, so you can use it for, you know, those -17-ish pushback moves, which is great. 38 damage on a knockdown, very respectable. Range is great. And I think another option I want to give you here that you might be able to use in a lot of these pushback scenarios, and one of my favorite moves with the entire character, a move that I really love, is the back 3. And the reason I love this move is that this is sort of a very well balanced move, but it's so compact and simple. It does a lot, and it's just baked into this one hit, but it is still a very reasonable move. I think it's going to be great for this character. It is high, but you do have homing properties. and you do launch the opponent with this. So if you're at this range after a pushback move and you do this, it's 18 frames to impact, and anytime that is fast enough, then you're going to get good damage. And I mean, you can get serious damage for hitting with this. You can get full combo damage, 60 plus with this easy. So it's an amazing little move. I think you're going to use it for whiffs. I think you're going to use it for pushback moves on block. Okay, let's talk about while standing stuff. So you have a while standing 4. This is like the first one that isn't standout amazing. It's just average, 16 damage. You get the standard +6 on hit. +5 on hit that you get off of all of these while standing 4s. I think the range is good, not amazing, but good. So very easy to understand. For 13, you have the while standing 1/4. This is only 30 damage. The reason it's good is that it's +6 and Hermit stance. And if you have the option of going to +6 with Hermit stance, I think you will, because most of your powerful tools are uninterruptible. So you're going to have to learn how to work with this stance in your punishment. But if you're willing to do that, then I think this Punisher is really quite good. And then you get your launcher at 15, which is great. You don't want slower than 15. If you can help it. And this is one of the coolest moves that he has. It is very standard. It's the standard notation of while standing too, but it's got a little bit of flair because he stands up and hits you, and if it connects, then he finishes the launcher and does this little like succession of hits like this. So that's your while standing launcher. That's only one input. That's the while standing 2 by itself, and it does this on hit. And it's a high damage launcher. It's got decent range. I think good range actually. So yeah, it's a great 15 frame while standing launcher. So as you can see now that we've wrapped up the block punishment, with the exception of maybe this, everything else is sort of crazy good. You don't knock down necessarily that early, but apart from that, you've got great properties. You lead into mix-ups, which is great, and you get really big damage, especially when you start comboing. The combo damage with this character is kind of crazy. Okay, moving on from punishment, I just want to talk about general pokes and just standard good moves that I recommend you use with the character. This is where he has a lot of stuff, and we're going to have to slim it down and talk about the essentials. But honestly, in terms of standard pokes, leave it at down forward 1, because this move is amazing. You know how much I love down forward 1s, but this is a seriously good one, and it's going to do you so solid, because it's going to fill like all these different purposes, right? So first of all, any respectable down forward 1 is going to be 13 frames to impact. This gives you +5 on hit, which is good. Even better, it's only -1 on block. That is really great. It's so great that when Katarina had it, they nerfed it. In Season 3, she doesn't get that anymore, so it's too good when it's on her, but Leroy gets to have it. The reason this is so great is -1 is very deceptive for the opponent. You can use this to set up counter hits. You can set up all kinds of stuff with it. All you have to do is add a single frame to the impact frames of your move, and you know exactly what kind of frame data you're working with, and the vast majority of your opponent's move list is still going to be uninterruptible. It also means that one of these down forward ones, even on block into another down forward one, is not a bad idea, and you can just keep on using it for all these different purposes. The 4 extension gives you +6 and Hermit stance like we discussed, and the high extension, the down forward 1/1, is also natural for 23, but just keep it at down forward 1. It's so great. I mean, start the round with it, end the round with it, float with it in combos, keep your opponent honest when they're ducking and using crush moves, use it as a go-to small risk mid in mix-ups. It's just a fantastic tool to have, and just for setups and counter hits as well, amazing. So yeah, there you go. That's your poke more or less. You have some other really cool moves that I want to recommend though. Your homing move, first of all, is fantastic. Again, the back 4, this is 17 frames to impact, which is, I think, fast for the massive amount of range damage that the move has, and the fact that it is mid and completely safe, by the way. It's -8, so it's completely safe. And I think 17 to impact is still fast enough that this is a respectable homing move, even when people are stepping you in the close range. But from afar, it's obviously amazing. The fact that it causes this corkscrew thing here means that this is a great tool for wall splatting opponents, because when their back is to the wall, they want to get away from it, and so they start walking sideways. And if you have a safe mid, so like unduckable, no risk mid that you can do here, that's going to home in on them and catch them when they're stepping and cause the wall splat. That's obviously really, really big. So amazing wall splat tool, great go-to spin move when you have to improvise in a combo, massive range, just fantastic overall. I also want to talk a little bit about back one. This is essentially your fast counter tool with the character, and it really reminds me of the back one from Feng. Feng has this at as well, but with Feng you have to run up and do a guaranteed shoulder when you get the counter hit. With Leroy, he's just going to give you the damage up front with this little movie here. So he kicks you and you get 50 damage, so not quite full combo damage, but almost, and that is more than enough to make this very respectable for a fast counter hit. So for 11 frames, as good as it is, I think this is really quite amazing. So your opponent has to be very careful about piling on the offense when they're being really quite spammy. If they're not careful, you're going to be able to interrupt with this and get huge, huge damage. So great counter tool. I think it's absolutely fantastic. -6 on block, so completely safe as well. What a great little tool to have. Some other cool moves that I want to mention. Well, the go-to whiff punisher, because we've talked about the orbital and this move, and those might not always have the range and the properties that you're looking for. This thing. And I think a go-to whiff punisher for the character is going to be the 4-2-2. This comes out of a dash, meaning that the range is obviously great and you can extend it, and you get very big damage. It's -13. The fact that it's -13 might, might worry you a little bit, but I honestly think that the payoff of hitting with this is so big that a lot of Leroy players, especially online, are going to like stand out here, watch the opponent, try and get a feel for when they're going to come in, when they're going to do a move, and then throw this out. And if it connects, it's a giant combo, it's massive damage. If it gets blocked, you'll just eat that 13 frame block punisher and consider that fair payment for the potential reward that you're getting here. So I think it's a move that you can party a little bit with, and -13 is bad, but it's not that bad. And I mean, consider the massive combo damage that you get here, and it really starts looking quite good. I can just show you a quick combo, even though we're going to talk about combos later. You can do stuff like this and get like, silly big damage. So I think the 4-4-2-2 is great for a whiff punisher. What else? The 4-4-3 is really quite crazy. So this is a homing high with massive range, and I think one of the main ways you get in with Leroy on the opponent. Be careful that you don't get ducked, but apart from the homing moves, the massive range, and the quite explosive speed, it has another great aspect because it's plus on block. It only gives you the +1, but it means that you can jump in with this, and if they get hit, that's great. If they block it, then you just work off of that 1+ frame. So I think this is an amazing gap closer and a good homing move overall. So homing properties, he's also sort of above average, really. What else do we need to talk about in this section? I mean, I want to give you some lows and stuff. Maybe I'll do a quick section here talking about the quote-unquote gimmick moves. He's got a dog, right? And he can call the dog with forward 2+3, and that looks like that. That is a gimmick move, unlike the next move we're going to talk about. The thing that's cool about it is that it causes enough of a stun that you can actually get guaranteed follow-ups if you're close enough, something like a 4-4, for the really long range punish. If you are close enough and you have access to the other gimmick move, the cane, which looks like this, you can actually get that, and it turns into like a crazy massive combo. So the cane is down forward 2+3. It looks like this, and you get access to it once per game. Then Leroy is going to drop his cane on the ground and discard it, and you don't have the option of using it anymore. In practice mode, you can use it as many times as you want. And so people do call this a gimmick move, but I think it's much, much more. I think it should honestly be considered a little bit like a soft version of a meter burn, You have to sort of... you have limited uses of it. You have to wait for the perfect timing, but then when it does hit, it's like massive. So what the move does is it's just a huge, huge launcher, and you can get crazy damage follow-ups here with the 4-4-3. Or if you want to, you can launch the opponent with something and then do this move, and it's going to spike them in a way where they do the ass scratch, and you can get guaranteed follow-ups on the ground as well. So I think the way you use this move is you keep it in reserve for when you need a big comeback, and then you look for a big whiff. If you see the whiff, you connect with this, and you get like, you can get like 90 to 100 damage with this. So I think it's really quite cool, and should be considered something more than a gimmick. I actually think that the cane has competitive application, and it's kind of interesting because we've never seen something like that before, a one-time use item move that is actually quite good. And it's something that would be interesting for like Tekken. Excuse me again, sorry, I've been haven't been eating today. Would be like if every character in the game got a version of this, like what would be the item for all the different characters? What would Miguel get? Would he smash you with a guitar? It's kind of interesting. But yeah, so we've talked about that. Let's move on and talk about more interesting stuff. I think I want to talk a little bit about Hermit's stance now. So Hermit's stance you can access manually off of 3+4 like this, and he goes into it, and then you have a bunch of different options. It honestly reminds me a lot of Savage, because you become immobile, you have mix-up options and stuff like that. You can step out of this, unlike Savage, but apart from that they're really quite similar. So I think the first thing, we can't go through the entire stance and talk about everything, but what I do want to give you here is a mix-up. And so I think the low that you're going to use for your Hermit stance mix-ups are, you're going to use 3-4 for the low, basically. The 3 by itself is 16 frames to impact, so completely unseeable, and it's not that bad on block at all. If we transition like this, you can tell that it's minus 13. If you do the 4 extension, however, you're minus 15, so you have to be careful about that. But 24 damage, really quite fast, and I think that's a respectable little low to have for your mix-up here. You've got stuff like a homing back 4 here, which is pretty great as well, fast. And this is also going to cause launches on counter hit, which is really great. So those are the lows for the mix-up, the March of Tyranny, and the homing sweep. And then for your mid, I think what you're going to go for most of the time, honestly, is the 1+2. The 1+2 is great because it's 30 damage, knockdown, mid, and it wall bounces. But the problem is, as you can tell right here, it's minus 10 on block, so you're not completely safe here, but I think minus 10 is a small enough price to pay for the power of the mix-up. So I think this is what you're going to go for most of the time. The impact frame of the initial hit is 15, so it's really quite fast, and that means that, okay, if you're transitioning, for example, with 1-2-4, then you're +3, and this is not interruptible. But if you're transitioning with something a little bit chunkier, like while stunning 1-4 and you get +6, or down forward 1-4 and you get +6 and stuff like that, then they cannot interrupt this, and it's a seriously scary mix-up. The other move that you need to be aware of here with Hermit is the 2-1. It's a spin move, but it's also very fast. You can tell it impacts at 12. And so when you're going into Hermit off of, for example, 1-2-4, and you get that +3, this is the move that the opponent needs to respect and know that they cannot interrupt with jabs. And so it's important that you mix this in, because they need to be aware that they can't just jab you out of your Hermit stance mix-up. So you need this, mix this in for the respect, and when they're hesitating and respecting the mix-up, then that's when you go for chunkier stuff, like the 1+2. The 2 is a high, by the way, so you have to keep that in mind as well. But yeah, really similar to Savage in a lot of ways, and really quite a good stance. A couple of other cool options that you have. The back 1 is a counter hit mid launcher that gives you +4 on block. So transitioning in like this and doing that is going to be absolutely fantastic. You also have the option of, I think it's 1+2 for a mix-up. Yeah, there it is, and that's actually natural as well. So that's really great. The 4 by itself is a fast little mid at 11, and I think that's pretty much the fastest thing you can do, or if you really want to do a mid and have it be uninterruptible, that's going to be uninterruptible after 1-2-4 as well. And then if that does connect and you do the extension, you can get the 38 and the big knockdown. I forget what it is on block, let's double check. Yeah, minus 14, there you go. That makes sense to me. It really should be quite punishable for how good that is. So yeah, another option that you have is the forward 4, and that's your sort of big mid launcher, kind of like an orbital. On the slow side, of course, going to be difficult to make that uninterruptible, but it's something to throw out when you think your opponent's really going to, duck and hesitate. Plus minus 0 on block, as you can see, so that's great, and the combo is massive as well. This is also something that you use in wall combos with Leroy. If you get into the stance, for example, you wall carry with this string, this string, for example, and you put them on the wall, and then you do 4-4, that's going to do that thing where they bounce off the wall at the exact right time, and then you can get Leroy Stomp, which looks like this, guaranteed. So that can be a massive wall combo. More on that later. But yeah, for the basic mix-up, I think you're going to be using mainly back 4, 3, 4, and then 4 by itself, and 1 plus 2. And you need to keep the 2-1 in mind to keep them honest. This move here, yep. So that's the stance. Are we ready to talk about combos? No, I haven't talked about lows yet, and that's really quite important. So I want to give you a couple of good lows. Now, first of all, you'll be happy to know that you have a Falling Leaf / Demo Man with this character, which is great. Comes in the shape of down back 3, 1 plus 2. Huge damage. The initial hit, the low is 18 frames to impact, so completely unseeable, at least online. Nobody's going to be reacting to this visually. And you knock them down and you get massive damage. So when Leroy is standing in front of you like this, he's scary. It's like standing across from Leo or Paul, you know, when they have access to those lows, or Lei, for example. Really great. Launch punishable, of course. I think one of the main mix-ups you're going to use for this string is, well, either down forward 1-4, but also up forward 3. I think up forward 3 is an amazing, amazing mix-up tool. It's mid, it's safe on block at -8, knocks down 25 damage, and it crushes low. So this is just a great go-to mid for mix-up situations, and it's going to be, in my opinion, your main sort of wall splatting tool. Knock somebody down at the wall after a combo, jump over the get-up kick, do this. If they crouch, you know, you still get the wall splat. Similar to how Leo or Dragunov use their moves of the same notation. So amazing mix-up mid here, amazing mix-up low here. Don't get it blocked though. Other lows that you have that are good, I think down 3 is great. 16 frames on block, I think it's -13, yeah, so not that bad. And the really great thing about down 3 is it has a 2 extension that is natural, and when you do this off of an unseeable low poke, you transition into Hermit stance with +8. And so if you want to do like first week, you know, completely stomp people online who don't know Leroy's frame data, go into this and start partying with big mids out of Hermit stance, because this is huge. Like +8 off a low like this, really, really great. So down 3-2 is fantastic. Down back 4 is the go-to for a low that crushes highs at 17. It is -14 though, so you have to be careful about getting launched right there. This gives you a knockdown like that for the counter hit. And then down 4 is another great little low poke. You have a mid extension, but they can block that. But the down 4 is great. The down 3 is great. The down 3 2 is great. And then another great little low poke that you have is the down 2 by itself. Kind of Fengish sort of move. A really great thing about this is you can actually hold down and remain in full crouch here, and then you can do full crouch shenanigans if you want to. But a great little low and down 2 as well. So fast low pokes, he's well rounded. If you want to party with something big, he has, you know, basically a Falling Leaf, which is the most powerful fast thing you could ask for. So great stuff, and the mix-up is really powerful, especially because he has great mids like that, or even just Orbital. I mean, Orbital is going to be amazing for mixing your lows as well. So yeah, great mix-up. I think we're going to make a cut in the video and then talk about combos. Maybe we should just keep on going. Let's just do that. I'm going to give you a couple of different parts that you do in your combos. Now, a really good thing about Leroy is he does the same combo off of pretty much everything, and it's easy to do. So like all your launchers, you're going to be able to do the combo that I show you now. You can do a couple of different variations, but the basic gist of it is you launch and then you do down back 1-3. Which is this filler string that does really good damage, as you can see. And you're going to use this as the go-to filler for pretty much any combo that you do with the character. And then after that, what you're going to do most of the time is a down 3-2, which is this string, and that goes into Hermit, and then you spin with Hermit 2-1. And then you have a couple of different options for the ender. The main go-to ender for wall carry and damage is going to be up forward 3+4, 1+2. Like that. And another, like a couple of different options you can do is after the down back 1-3, you can like refloat them with a down forward 1 if you want to shorten the combo and then spin with forward 4-4 or back 4, for example. So let's show you what that's going to look like. Let's work off of the orbital for now, but again, this works off of like all of his launchers. There you go, and that's 72. So as you can see, it's really quite big. Off of this launcher, you can do the same thing. Off of the while standing launcher. I think this standard option is good enough and really high powered, and you have the option of just shortening it with just this for the wall carry under that. This is going to be the go-to for almost all the different situations, really. But like I said, you can start using variety, like stuff like this. I needed to dash a little bit deeper to make that work, so let's try that again. That's the wrong option. I connected earlier today. There we go. So what I'm doing there is I'm just refloating with a down forward 1 after the down back 1-3, and then I'm spinning with forward 4-4, and then I'm doing a deep dash forward 4-2, which is going to send them in this really nice diagonal angle, and I think that's going to be great for wall carry conversions. Sorry about the awkward edit right there. I'm working with low-end equipment today, but I really wanted to go to a wall stage and show you guys some wall stuff before we wrap this up. I'm going to start in the middle and give you some conversions, and then I'm going to go over to the wall and do some strings there. But if we start out here, the first thing I want to talk about is this really cool Hermit orbital, Hermit forward 4. It's one of those moves where if it hits the opponent right as they're sliding from the wall to the ground, and you get the 60% scaling with the perfect timing, it's going to cause a bounce and give you a guaranteed stomp, which in Leroy's case is his down back 2 series. And so this is similar to what Leo and Katarina do, for example. It's a little bit finicky, it's going to take some practice. The move I'm going to use to access Hermit, by the way, is down 3-2, which is a great little tool for doing that. But say, for example, I'm here in the middle of the screen and I'm launching Jin with my standard orbital, I might do something like this. You can tell that I get 25 damage on that final hit, meaning that the scaling is low and the damage is really quite high. So that's one cool thing you can practice how to do with Leroy. If you want to do something more standard for your conversion, you can just do your standard combo and cut it short, kind of like this. And that's just the normal combo cut short, and then the ender I used was down forward 3-1-1+2, delaying the final hit again for that 60% scaling that you really want on the final hit of a wall combo. But if you want to convert to the wall and get one of those nice high splats for something more proper, I think two really good strings for that are upward 3+4, which you use as part of your standard ender, you know, this thing, and 4-4-2-4 that we talked about earlier. So again, off of the same orbital, you could do something like this. And then maybe do, run up and do, you know, the ender of your choice. What I'm doing right there is 2-1-2-1, which is a really reliable little wall string that you can do. You're always going to get the 60% scaling on the final hit, but it does start with a high, so it's a little bit harder to stick when you have to run up compared to the down forward 3 string that I did earlier. A move that we haven't talked about yet that I'm just going to throw in here because I just thought about it is down 2-4. This is one of those moves where you can use it at the end of a combo and reset the scaling and get the low guaranteed, kind of like how Gigas works with his excavator, or Anna with one of her enders, you know. And this is a reliable combo that you can use in a lot of combos for really good damage. And so I just wanted to let you know that I do know about that. I'm just not going to go into depth about it right here, but it is another really cool option that works in the open and at the wall. But speaking of the wall, well, actually, before we go over to it, let's do some rage stuff, because you have one of those rage drives that's going to really meteor your opponent away towards the wall and stick them on it really hard, similar to Kanzumi, Paul, and Leo. And so you can use this to splat somebody from really far and then reset them to the wall for a combo. For example, something you could do here is maybe this should work. Yep. Sorry, I'm messing up the ender there. There we go. So that's just me resetting with a down forward one and then doing that standard string. When you do it in this case after a re-wall splat, you can't delay it because it won't stick, but you will get the 60% scaling if you just spam it out in that scenario. I'm sure there are going to be more powerful ways of actually doing the re-wall splat and stuff, but if you've ever played a character like Leo or Paul or Kazumi that have a rage drive like this, you know how powerful it can be in resetting your wall combo with double splats and stuff like that. So just thought I'd mention that, but let's actually go to the wall and show you some wall combos when you're up there. First of all, I think your best splatting moves are going to be up forward 3 for the low crush, especially good for Oki. If they do get up 3, you splat them. If they get up crouching, they still get fucked. It's very good. Back 4 for the homing properties when they're walking. Both of these tools are safe mid, so really, really fantastic. And then for the actual wall combo, I think a lot of people are going to go for the 1+2 series here, the really powerful 14 frame move that we talked about earlier. It's a little bit finicky to do, but you can get really good damage if you manage to get it right. That was me doing it too fast. There it is. So that's 56 damage in this scenario and 60% scaling. It will do this cross-up shenanigans a lot, so that's something to be aware of. But the way to get it is 1+2, 1+2, really fast. You can't delay the second hit of this. The third hit is what you need to delay, the 1. And if you do that properly, it comes out like that. And it's a good option. It might be your highest damage option, but it is finicky. Some other options, the ones I've showed you already, 2-1, 2-1, really reliable, isn't going to let you down. Decent damage, always the 60% scaling. And the down forward 3, 1, 1+2 like that with the delay. Now, I'm sure that there's some sort of really dope wall combo that I haven't found here. Like my spider sense tells me that there's an optimization that I haven't found yet. And as a rule of thumb, I haven't been watching other YouTubers' videos on what they're finding with Leroy. I wanted to do this on my own, like a day one thing. And then I'm sure that we're going to learn so much more in the next couple of days or even next few hours. But those are just the options that I really wanted to show you for the wall. And if you have better stuff there, then definitely let me know. But that's been my little introductory tutorial on Leroy. I've really enjoyed learning about him today. Surprised by how vanilla Tekken he feels in a lot of ways. I mean, he's very high damage, very explosive and dramatic, but there's a lot of sort of standard stuff in here and surprisingly few gimmicks, which I really like. I think he's kind of similar to Miguel in a lot of ways, but a better character. So if you're looking for a better Miguel, maybe this will be your choice. I personally probably will not end up playing Leroy because I'm trying to get into Zafina and Gon Ryu right now. Going to spend the next couple of weeks doing that, but he is definitely super cool and super enjoyable to use. That's another move that I forgot to mention. Down forward 1+2 is your power crush. It's God armor and it causes a wall bounce, which is amazing, but it is -14 on block. But that is another amazing tool at the wall, obviously. And the forward 3 is what I use when I'm really close, and if I need to reconvert to the wall when I have space, I do forward 4-4. But that's another video. We're going to do in-depth stuff in the future. For now, thank you so much for watching this. I'm sorry it's a little bit all over the place because I'm a little bit all over the place with the character right now. I'm sorry the audio quality was low. I'm sorry I have a cold and sound all nasal and shit, but hopefully the information was solid enough that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching it, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye for now.